if we can remove the secrecy, then we can remove the curtain that corruption can hide behind.
A local citizens group forms to investigate the way their county government's being run, and what they uncover is some seriously shady business.
Investigative reporter AJ Legault has our 8 News special report, The Brunswick Stew.
Backroom deals, illegal contracts, improperly awarded bonuses, and the public safety being put at risk. Just some of what's been uncovered in Brunswick County.
We've uncovered a lot of things that, were it not for this effort, would have remained secret.
Do I have approval of the agenda?
That effort being referred to is the recent forming of the bipartisan citizens group, Brunswick Better Government, or BBG. We recently sat down with the BBG's board of directors.
Why was Better Brunswick Government formed to begin with?
We started getting information that the county needed to raise taxes. And when we saw the paper, they were talking about 54% increase taxes in Brunswick County. So we knew then that we needed to do something.
The threat of a massive tax hike in the mostly rural county caused neighbors to band together.
Bankruptcy, which is where you all have us headed right now.
To begin questioning how their elected leaders were spending their tax dollars.
Take this past year, if somebody's taxes are $1,000, they're going to be $1,200. And $200 may not sound like a lot of money, but in Brunswick County, $200 is a lot of money to a lot of people.
Formed in May, the membership of Brunswick Better Government is exploding.
Started with 3 of us.
How many do you have now?
We have somewhere around right at 250.
The group tells us their goal can be summed up in 3 words: investigate, illuminate, and educate.
Educate the public about what we found and about the workings of the government, so that the secrecy of the government cannot be maintained. And if we can remove the secrecy, then we can remove the curtain that corruption can hide behind.
When they didn't receive satisfactory answers to their questions from members of county government,
we got no response.
they began doing what any journalist worth their salt would, using the Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA, to say, show me the paperwork.
You guys have been filing a lot of Freedom of Information requests.
We've uncovered a lot of things by that effort that we could not get anywhere else.
When the county initially did not follow FOIA laws,
You really took them by surprise, just asking for stuff that, as a citizen, should be your right to be able to request and get?
We were requesting what ought to have been out there to start with, but we couldn't get it.
BBG took the county to court.
We took the county to court. We won that.
It was more of a moral win. The case never made it before a judge. During pretrial negotiations, the county agreed to admit they had not followed state sunshine law and refunded money that they had improperly charged citizens for financial reports that legally should have been free. Now the group began pouring through public records.
You guys have uncovered some issues that really raised some red flags.
Oh, yes, we have.
Prime example, an illegally awarded $10,000 bonus to one of Brunswick's highest paid employees, County Administrator Charlotte Woolridge.
This is like trying to pick up a dead skunk by the sweet smelling end. The more you handle it, the stinkier you get. Ms. Woolridge, pay that money back.
State code says the payment of a bonus shall be authorized by ordinance. The county board didn't have an ordinance allowing them to award bonuses.
The board did not realize that an ordinance was required before the bonus could be awarded.
Then there's the issue of political favoritism. BBG uncovered the county awarding a costly contract to a lawn mowing company that submitted the highest bid.
Over the last 6 years, we could have saved at least probably somewhere around $70,000 if they would have took it a little better.
Poring over public records, they uncovered a real bombshell. The fact 2 of the references for that winning high bid, costing taxpayers thousands of dollars a year, are Bernard Jones and Welton Tyler, members of the Board of Supervisors that voted to approve the contract.
That is about as wrong as you can get.
That contract would later be proven to have been awarded in direct violation of state law.
These things were just not coming to the attention of the public until we came along and started doing our investigation education, and illumination.
You guys obviously feel that someone needs to be looking over the shoulder of your elected and appointed officials.
That's right. We think that's a healthy thing to bring things out in the open, to shine the sunlight on it. Somebody said that sunlight's the best disinfectant, and I think that's really true in local government.
Well, several months ago, Better Brunswick government asked us to help shine some light on just what was going on in their county. Coming up in our series of investigative reports today entitled The Brunswick Stew, we do just that. What we find are numerous violations of state law and county leaders ignoring blatant public safety concerns. So, coming up at 6:30 this morning, we look into that illegally awarded grass cutting contract, and guess what? County leaders are ducking our questions.
Your name was listed as a recommendation for one of the bidders. You were listed on there. It raises
have a good night, man.
It raises
have
the
a good
issue
night.
of political favoritism.
Have a good night.
We ask a lot of questions and we get no answers.
After allegations of political favoritism and wasting taxpayer money, a local citizens group is asking 8 News investigative reporter AJ Legault to look into how their county is doing business.
In his continuing series, The Brunswick Stew, AJ uncovers a local government violating a number of state laws.
Brunswick County in Southside Virginia, where tobacco's king and the claim to fame is stew. But what's stewing now?
Smells like a skunk.
In local government,
It really sounds somewhat ridiculous.
has citizens fuming and uniting to hold their elected officials accountable.
Is this cronyism right here? Favoritism?
I think it's favoritism when you look at that one contract. Certainly do.
Do I have approval of the agenda?
The recently formed citizens group, Better Brunswick Government, asked us to help investigate how the county is awarding contracts.
We're digging into a lot of what's going on in Brunswick County.
When we started digging, what we found definitely fails to pass the sniff test. Citizens seem to agree.
This is like trying to pick up a dead skunk by the sweet-smelling end. The more you handle it, the stinkier you get.
Here's a prime example. In January, Brunswick put out a bid proposal to hire a grass cutting company to mow at a county park. They received bids from 4 companies.
The one that got accepted is the highest contract over the other 3.
It raises the question, why would the cash-strapped county choose the most expensive mowing company?
In most contracting business, you're looking for the lowest bid, the best bid.
We began investigating. We obtained the grading system Brunswick government used to pick the winning bid. It includes factors such as cost and experience. Here's how the bids graded out. 2 of the 4 companies received the exact same high score. So if 2 companies by the county's own grading system can do an equally good job mowing the grass in this park, you'd think they'd choose the one with the lowest price. But instead, they picked the vendor that will cost taxpayers more than an extra $7 grand over the life of the 2-year contract.
It's costing us, the taxpayers.
Looking for answers led us deeper into the contract paperwork, and like the old saying claims, the devil was in the details. Flipping to the page where the winning company listed references, we got quite a shock. Look at the names listed as vouching for the winner: Bernard Jones and Welton Tyler.
And when I looked at one contract, and I saw 2 board of supervisors that had supported that contract, and I knew it wasn't a fair game.
That's right, Jones and Tyler are both members of the 5-member Brunswick Board of Supervisors who voted to approve the costly contract.
They've given their rubber stamp to it before it even starts.
The Virginia Public Procurement Act is clear. All procurement procedures need to be conducted in a fair and impartial manner with the avoidance of impropriety or appearance of impropriety. We wanted to be fair and talk with the 2 supervisors who appear to have backed the winning bid before it was even voted on.
Tyler, hi. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Hey,
How you
Legault,
doing?
Channel 8. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Can I catch you for 1 second here?
Sure.
But when Board Chairman Welton Tyler realizes what we want to talk about, he basically runs away from our camera.
Your name was listed as a recommendation for one of the bidders. You were listed on there. It raises
Have a good night, man.
It raises
have
the
a good
issue
night.
of political favoritism.
Have a good night.
Bernard Jones also refused to speak with us. Fellow board member John Cataldo agreed to, but wasn't that forthcoming on this issue.
Why the county would not just take the cheapest route and save money?
I can't disclose that because of we did that in closed session.
With the board not talking, citizens can only speculate.
If I lived in that county, I'd want an explanation.
It would seem fair or reasonable to ask that question.
Yeah.
Mike Thompson, the president for the bipartisan Thomas Jefferson Institute for Public Policy, reviewed the bid documents with us.
On the surface, this looks like something out of some novel, about the way local government is run by the good old boy network. I mean, that's what the papers look like.
It's not just shady looking. Our investigation uncovered that Brunswick government's whole bid process is downright illegal. Virginia code clearly says all contracts with non-governmental contractors for the purchase of services, such as lawn mowing, shall be awarded after competitive sealed bidding. In a competitive sealed bid, lowest responsible bid always wins. What Brunswick did was award the contract after picking and choosing the company they wanted to hire. State code says they can only do that if they, in advance, set forth in writing why using competitive sealed bidding isn't fiscally advantageous. Brunswick County never did that, so the contract they awarded to mow this grass violates state law. How did you become aware that there was an issue with this?
We became aware of it primarily from your email to me when you inquired about the declaration form. And once we became aware of the declaration form, we have immediately changed our processes.
Brunswick County Administrator Charlotte Woolridge agreed to do what none of the elected officials on the board would: be interviewed and own up to what's been going on.
This has been standard operating procedure for us.
She says they were unaware they were violating state law with their bidding process, and not just on the lawn mowing contract. All the contracts have been done more or less this way.
100% of the contracts have been done this way. From our standpoint, we thought we were doing everything proper and in order. Now that we are aware of that this is an issue going forward, this is an issue that we are going to make sure that we correct.
The citizens of Better Brunswick government say they'll be watching to ensure just that.
Sooner or later, they could see the wisdom of what we're trying to do. We're not trying to hurt them. It's not that thing. It's trying to help them.
As to why the grass cutting contract was given to the highest bidder, the county administrator claims it was because the company has had that contract in the past and did a great job. But as we showed you, state law says when you're using taxpayer dollars for a job like lawn mowing, low bid always wins. Now, coming up at 5:30, we're going to take a look at the county administrator's own employment contract, and we find it's not worth the paper it's printed on, and citizens are hot about an illegally awarded $10,000 bonus.
People, if it's not their money, they don't really care how they spend it sometimes.
Somebody said that sunlight's the best disinfectant, and I think that's really true in local government.
A local citizens group asks 8 News investigative reporter AJ Legault to help shine some light on how their local government is being run.
In his continuing investigation, the Brunswick Stew, AJ uncovers a contract belonging to a county administrator not worth the paper it's written on.
She has a 6-figure job, a large office, and is arguably the most important woman in Brunswick County government. But County Administrator Charlotte Woolridge's employment contract is, in a word, worthless.
Were you surprised when I showed it to you? And in essence, it could be voided because it may not have been done according to state law?
My contract is an issue for the Board of Supervisors, and that is an issue that the Board of Supervisors will need to address.
We began looking at Woolridge's contract in the wake of a scandal surrounding a $10,000 bonus she received, and then was required to pay back, and then was rewarded yet again. Here's how all that played out. When the county board renewed Woolridge's contract this past summer, she was given a $10,000 bonus, awarded for what supervisors say was her role in landing plans with Dominion to build this proposed power plant in Brunswick. But a number of citizens cried foul.
Bankruptcy, which is where you all have us headed right now.
Questioning at public board meetings why their highest paid employee was receiving a bonus when taxes are skyrocketing and the small rural county is struggling to balance the budget.
People, if it's not their money, they don't really care how they spend it sometimes.
Do I have approval of the agenda?
A quickly growing citizens group calling itself Better Brunswick Government formed. Their goal, looking into how their county was doing business. They uncovered that the bonus was given illegally.
This is like trying to pick up a dead skunk by the sweet smelling end. The more you handle it, the stinkier you get. Ms. Woolridge, pay that money back.
Here's the sticking point. State code says the payment of a bonus shall be authorized by ordinance. The county board didn't have an ordinance allowing them to award bonuses.
Giving a bonus is not representation.
It forced the board to, in essence, eat crow.
The board did not realize that an ordinance was required before the bonus could be awarded.
The county racked up nearly $2,700 in legal fees with a Richmond law firm, Sands Anderson, trying to figure a way out of the mess. In the end, Woolridge was forced to write this check to the county, paying back her bonus. The board then passed an ordinance allowing themselves to award bonuses, and Woolridge was reissued her bonus, much to the chagrin of upset county residents.
It's not right to the citizens of Brunswick County. Brunswick County, the people have a hard time. It's not one of the richest counties in the state of Virginia.
We were asked to investigate the bonus situation. As we looked at it, a number of other issues jumped out at us from the county administrator's contract. It's filled with sloppy errors. For example, under both the salary and retirement supplement sections, it lists the wrong year, 2011, not 2012. But when you flip to the last page, the errors really pile up. It says that one of the witnesses to the contract being signed is Tammy Newcomb, deputy clerk. But Tammy never signs the contract. Instead, a woman named Kim Height, an administrative assistant, does. I asked Charlotte Woolridge about the inconsistency.
Obviously, that was an error, and that is an error that will be corrected. It's a procedural matter, and that's an issue that will be addressed.
But that procedural error, as she describes it, is not the most egregious problem. The county attorney, Phyllis Katz, with the law firm Sands Anderson, who was paid several $1,000s trying to find a way to fix the bonus fiasco, clearly never reviewed the contract.
Our county attorney reviews documents that we request review of.
But there's a problem with that. State law clearly says the county doesn't have a choice in whether they want their attorney to review contracts. Here's what the law says in plain English. All contracts shall be approved as to form by the county attorney. Back to the Woolridge contract. In violation of state law, the county attorney does not sign it. It's the same story in Woolridge's 2011 and 2010 contracts. This is what they should look like, and in fact did, in Woolridge's 09 contract. Approved to form by the county attorney.
How come an attorney didn't sign it?
My contract is an issue for the Board of Supervisors, and that is an issue that I will talk to with the Board of Supervisors for them to address.
Unless they do address it legally, the county administrator's contract's about as legally binding as these blank pieces of printer paper. Well, our investigation of the Brunswick Stew continues tonight on 8 News at 6 when we showcase public safety being put at risk at the old Brunswick County Courthouse by a bizarre lack of action on the part of county government.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Christina Ferrick.
And I'm Juan Condi. In our continuing series of special reports, The Brunswick Stew, a local citizens group is asking 8 News to help shine some light on how their local government is doing business.
You guys have uncovered some issues that really raise some red flags.
Oh, yes, we have.
You basically said you're not going to put up with that or take that anymore.
We're not going to take that.
One of the issues that really has folks fired up in Brunswick County is the county government ignoring blatant safety violations, putting families at risk every time they visit the local DMV.
Investigative reporter 8 News investigative reporter AJ Legault has this special report.
Built in 1854, overlooking the main drag in Lawrenceville sits the historic Brunswick County Courthouse. Justice is no longer the building's main function, but it still houses the local DMV and the county treasurer's offices. A steady stream of citizens can usually be found coming and going through the front door. And our investigation uncovered that every one of them is being put at risk of serious injury.
So, safety issue.
After years as a Virginia state trooper, Bill Hudson's now retired and calls Brunswick County home. Just discussing the situation at the courthouse gets him hot under the collar.
Just gross negligence as far as I'm concerned.
What Bill calls gross negligence is the way the county's handled structural problems with the courthouse's portico and cupola. Back in 2009, the Virginia Department of Historic Resources commissioned a condition assessment of the building. What was found were a number of structural issues that were, quote, cause for concern. Roof leaks compromising a truss and the girder that supports the north side of the cupola. Bird droppings holding moisture and hastening the deterioration of the lightly framed portico ceiling. Increasing loads on the fragile area standing directly above the front door. The report goes on to say a structural engineer was needed immediately, that it's a matter of some urgency, and that until the engineer's recommendations are fully implemented, County employees and the public need to be protected from falling debris. An engineer was hired. In his report, he concurs with the previous findings and says some things need to be done immediately. Cordon off the entire portico, prohibiting the use of the portico and front entrance. Erect scaffolding under the entire portico ceiling of sufficient strength to protect against collapse of the ceiling. That report was dated October 8th, 2009. Fast forward 3 years and we find the engineer's safety recommendations have been almost completely ignored.
The recommendation was the entire portico should be scaffolded off, and that certainly is not done.
The entire portico is supposed to be cordoned off. That also hasn't happened.
As you can see, anybody can walk up on the portico. It's not even barricaded by a caution tape or anything. It just has a piece of string up there and part of that's down.
Bill is not the only citizen concerned by the county's apparent disregard for safety.
My 1-year-old son right there, if I, walk by and all this stuff fall on us and something happen, we'd be out back. It's crazy.
Bill, you said you've brought this to the county's attention?
Yes, numerous times.
What have they done about it?
Nothing. Not a thing.
So we took the issue to Brunswick's county administrator, Charlotte Woolridge.
How come some of the repairs at both William and Mary and then the private engineer that you hired said it needed to be addressed immediately haven't been done?
From our perspective, it has been addressed. The scaffolding on the courthouse meets OSHA standards, so in our opinion, it has been addressed.
No matter what question we asked Woolridge, we got the same baffling answer. Listen to the exchange.
The engineer's report says that the entire area under the portico needs to be cordoned off. It isn't right now. Why is that?
From our perspective, we are in compliance with the report. It meets all of OSHA standards.
Should people be up there on that area under the portico that's not protected by scaffolding?
The entire area is protected, and OSHA indicated that we are in compliance.
Do you believe county employees or the public are in any way being put at risk with the situation at the old courthouse as it stands right now?
Absolutely not. Again, we are in compliance with OSHA standards.
The answers are baffling for a number of reasons. OSHA, a federal agency, doesn't even operate in the Commonwealth. Look, you go to OSHA's website, put in Virginia, and it says you've chosen a state which operates its own occupational safety and health program. In Virginia, all issues regarding workplace safety are handled by the Virginia Department of Labor and Industry. And we found through Freedom of Information requests that Brunswick County has no record whatsoever that they're in compliance with OSHA or any other state or federal agency's safety standards. Eventually, Charlotte Woolridge told us someone in her office had a phone conversation with OSHA, but they don't have the name or number of the person they spoke with.
What's OSHA had to say about that situation then?
Okay. OSHA said that this is protective scaffolding. This is not scaffolding that you would typically use on construction site. And because it's protection scaffolding, we are in compliance with their laws and regulations.
The only documentation Brunswick has to back up their assertion is this letter from a scaffolding salesman. He tells the county that what they've set up is not by OSHA's definition a scaffold because it's not being used to support employees or materials, and therefore is not subject to inspection requirements. But think about that for a second. The county is claiming that because no one is climbing on this scaffolding, it therefore is not scaffolding by OSHA standards. See, they have signs that say not for use. They're taking that to mean it's safe. But they're missing the point entirely. The issue is not whether all this scaffolding is safe. The issue is whether the scaffolding is adequate to protect folks from being hurt should the ceiling up above it collapse. That's a very real possibility according to the engineer's report, which once again says scaffolding needs to be put up under the entire portico to protect against collapse. So when it comes to the safety of people using this courthouse, it seems Brunswick County government is asleep on the job.
I don't think they're doing their job.
On top of all the safety issues, some citizens are pointing out a lack of fiscal responsibility. Brunswick County spent about $14,000 over the last 3 years renting what scaffolding they do have at the courthouse. Now, it could have just been purchased for a fraction of that cost. Plans are in the works to completely remodel the historic courthouse, a multi-million-dollar project, but those plans may take several more years to complete. In the meantime, you may want to move quickly when you're entering and leaving the courthouse.
An 8 News investigation exposes major safety concerns at an area courthouse. Now a state agency is demanding answers. Investigative reporter AJ Legault is live in the studio with the latest on his continuing investigation, the Brunswick Stew. AJ?
Christina, after viewing our reports about Brunswick County not adequately addressing safety concerns at their historic courthouse, which is home to a State Department of Motor Vehicles branch office, the head of the DMV fired off this letter to members of Brunswick County government demanding assurances that their customer safety is not being jeopardized. They have major issues with their courthouse since 2009. That's when a condition assessment of the building was done. What was found was a number of structural issues that were cause for concern. Roof leaks compromising a truss and girder, bird droppings holding moisture and hastening the deterioration of the lightly framed portico ceiling, increasing loads on the fragile area standing directly above the front door. The report goes on to say it's a matter of some urgency, and that until a structural engineer's recommendations are fully implemented, county employees and the public should not use the front door or portico. The structural engineer concurred with the previous report, writing some things need to be done immediately. Cordon off the entire portico, prohibiting its use and that of the front entrance. Erect scaffolding under the entire portico ceiling of sufficient strength to protect against collapse. Fast forward 3 years, and our report showed the engineer's report has not yet been fully implemented. We found the portico was not completely cordoned off.
Anybody can walk underneath here. The only thing showing that it may have been cordoned off at one point is some rotted rope lying on the ground.
Part of the portico is roped off with some string, but there's no signs warning of danger should you cross under. The scaffolding, supposed to be under the entire portico, is only erected near the door, which is still in use. This lack of action by the county to follow the engineer's recommendations certainly brings into question the safety of every person walking into and out of the building, which houses the county treasurer's office and a local DMV branch. Shortly after our report aired, Virginia DMV Chairman Richard Holcomb fired off this letter to the county saying he's very concerned about the alleged safety issues, and he wants satisfactory assurances that DMV customers can enter the courthouse without risk to their safety. During our investigation, County Administrator Charlotte Woolridge gave us assurances.
The engineer's report says that the entire area under the portico needs to be cordoned off. It isn't right now. Why is that?
From our perspective, we are in compliance with the report.
Should people be up there on that area under the portico that's not protected by scaffolding?
The entire area is protected.
But those don't seem like satisfactory assurances, since they appear to fly in the face of what our video clearly shows. The letter from the DMV commissioner goes on to say if the county is unable or unwilling to provide assurances or a viable plan to ensure the safety of their customers, DMV will suspend or terminate the agreement they have with the county. The letter from the DMV is dated November 8th. 6 days later, Brunswick County has yet to respond. Now, sources also tell me federal investigators are now looking into whether any criminal action took place in relation to some of the other issues we exposed in our Brunswick Stew series of reports. Well, if you'd like to watch our complete investigation, just go to WRIC.com and under the News tab, click on 8 News Investigates.
3 years and one 8 News investigation later, a local community or a local county is finally taking action to protect citizens from dangerous conditions at the courthouse and DMV. Investigative reporter AJ Legault provides us with an update on his ongoing series of reports called the Brunswick Stew.
There is no danger. That's what Brunswick County Administrator Charlotte Woolridge repeatedly told us. But after our reports aired detailing how the county was ignoring a structural engineer's warnings that the portico ceiling of the courthouse could collapse at any time, the county finally took action, barricading the entire front of the courthouse with construction fencing and wire mesh.
They finally done it because Channel 8 showed it, I feel like.
Bill Hudson's been pushing for some time for Brunswick County to address safety issues at their historic courthouse, which is home to a branch of the DMV and the county treasurer's office.
I'm glad to see my grandkids or anybody else's kids are not having to walk under this.
Brunswick County's known they have major issues with their courthouse since 2009. That's when a condition assessment of the building was done. What was found was a number of structural issues that were cause for concern. Roof leaks compromising a truss and girder, bird droppings holding moisture and hastening the deterioration of the lightly framed portico ceiling, increasing loads on the fragile area standing directly above the front door. A structural engineer then told the county in this report that some things need to be done immediately. Cordon off the entire portico, prohibiting its use and that of the front entrance. Erect scaffolding under the entire portico ceiling of sufficient strength to protect against collapse.
Do I have approval of the agenda?
When a citizens group called Brunswick Better Government, of which Bill is a member, asked us to investigate the situation several months ago, we found those safety warnings being, by and large, ignored. Some scaffolding was placed directly above the front door, but that was it.
Anybody can walk underneath here. The only thing showing that it may have been cordoned off at one point is some rotted rope lying on the ground. Do you believe county employees or the public are in any way being put at risk with the situation at the old courthouse as it stands right now?
Absolutely not.
When we questioned County Administrator Charlotte Woolridge, she gave us some bizarre answers that didn't seem to match the facts.
The engineer's report says that the entire area under the portico needs to be cordoned off. It isn't right now. Why is that?
From our perspective, we are in compliance with the report.
Should people be up there on that area under the portico that's not protected by scaffolding?
The entire area is protected.
But after we aired our report, Virginia DMV Chairman Richard Holcomb fired off this letter to the county saying he's very concerned about the alleged safety issues and he wants satisfactory assurances that DMV customers can enter the courthouse without risk to their safety. While the county is yet to respond to that letter, we found they are now addressing the safety issue.
It's about time.
By barricading the front of the courthouse and having employees and citizens use a side door.
Do you think you've been put in danger walking in and out of there when they haven't been taking proper safety precautions?
It's possible because if they didn't have anything up and something's wrong, it's possibly something that could have failed and fell on somebody.
I'm glad they're doing that, and it took too long to do it. A lot of people's lives might have been jeopardized by not taking action.
We're still waiting to hear how the county will respond to the DMV commissioner's demand for answers about the safety of his customers using this courthouse. In Brunswick, AJ Legault, 8 News.
It was your story that really got our attention.
It was an 8 News investigation on dangerous conditions at this area courthouse that prompted a state agency to take action. Investigative reporter AJ Legault is joining us live now in studio to update his ongoing series, The Brunswick Stew. AJ?
Juan, last month we detailed how Brunswick County government leaders had ignored and misinterpreted blatant safety warnings at their historic courthouse, which also houses a branch of the DMV. Well, tonight, Virginia's DMV commissioner discussing the actions he took in response to our report.
Well, AJ, let me first of all thank you and Channel 8 for making us aware. We saw your story, and then within a couple of days we were starting in corresponding with the county.
The story that caught Commissioner Holcomb's attention detailed engineers' reports showcasing structural concerns with the cupola and portico ceiling directly above the entrance to the Brunswick County Historic Courthouse, which is home to not just county offices, but also a local State Department of Motor Vehicles branch.
Your story brought to our attention that there could be problems with the entrance into that building. Absolutely, we took that very serious and acted on it very quickly.
That quick action is in sharp contrast to the way Brunswick County responded when they first learned of the safety issues. Back in 2009, a condition assessment of the building was done. What was found was a number of structural issues that were cause for concern. Roof leaks compromising a truss and girder, bird droppings holding moisture and hastening the deterioration of the lightly framed portico ceiling, increasing loads on the fragile area standing directly above the front door. The report goes on to say it's a matter of some urgency, and that until a structural engineer's recommendations are fully implemented, county employees and the public should not use the front door or portico. The structural engineer concurred with the previous report, writing some things need to be done immediately. Cordon off the entire portico, prohibiting its use and that of the front entrance. Erect scaffolding under the entire portico ceiling of sufficient strength to protect against collapse. But we found those warnings being by and large ignored. Some scaffolding was placed directly above the front door, but that was it.
Anybody can walk underneath here. The only thing showing that it may have been cordoned off at one point is some rotted rope lying on the ground.
Seeing our report, Commissioner Holcomb says they immediately realized this was a situation potentially putting thousands of their customers at risk.
Obviously, the safety and security of our customers and our employees in our full-service offices is extremely important to us.
Holcomb fired off this letter to the county demanding satisfactory assurances that DMV customers can enter the courthouse without risk to their safety and threatening to close down the DMV branch if the answers were unsatisfactory.
The threat that we put in the letter about potentially suspending DMV services was not an idle threat.
In response, Brunswick County barricaded the front entrance of the building with orange construction fencing and wire mesh. Folks looking to do business inside are now required to use the side door. And County Administrator Charlotte Woolridge provided the DMV with this letter from a recently hired architectural firm stating that they are addressing the identified structural issues in the previous reports. Commissioner Holcomb says the answers he's received are satisfactory, so the citizens in Brunswick will not be forced to drive way out of their way to conduct DMV business or be concerned with a ceiling crashing down on top of them.
So your message to your customers that are down there and use that DMV Select, you feel that it's safe as it is?
Absolutely. The steps that the county has taken, we are comfortable that that is a safe and secure environment.
On a side note, shortly after our reports about the courthouse first aired, the state fire marshal went in and found 3 other safety violations, including inaccessible fire escapes and exit doors in the basement, supposed to be accessible in the case of an emergency, locked with keyed deadbolts. Situations the fire marshal required they fix immediately. Now, our Brunswick Stew investigation was the result of a viewer tip. If you have something for me to look into, send an email to ajinvestigates@wric.com, or you can also find me on Facebook under AJ Investigates.